Hello, OWL members. I am thrilled to announce this month's Inside the OWL studio will feature Aura, who has supported OWL for several years, and we are now pleased to have as a uniting sponsor. Aura is one of the world's leading full-service ophthalmic research organizations with offices in North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. They support organizations from startups to global pharmaceutical and device companies to efficiently bring their new products from concept to market. Aura has been on the leading edge of ophthalmic product development for over 40 years, helping their clients earn more than 50 product approvals. We are so thrilled to have their support of OWL. Without further delay, I would like to welcome this month's interviewee, Dr. Sally Tucker, Vice President of Aura Europe. We enjoyed learning more about Sally and her reasons for championing OWL in a blog post in 2021 that you can read on the OWL website. Welcome to Inside the OWL studio, Sally.
Thank you so much for having me.
As you know, the OWL organization continually strives to create networking and educational opportunities to support our mission of advancing diversity and leadership. I find it hugely beneficial to hear from other organizations such as Aura about their efforts around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. With that being said, I'm very excited to hear from you about Aura's initiatives in this area, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you very much. So diversity and inclusion is really at the core of everything that we do, from the clinical trials that we run. You know, if we actually think about the clinical trials that we're involved with, even from the regulator's stance, it's really important to have diversity and inclusion in the clinical trials. We work very hard working with the investigators and sites to ensure that we have representation across a diverse community in the involvement and recruitment of patients. We also work with patient advocacy groups across multiple countries, trying to increase awareness of clinical trials, breaking down any barriers that there may be, really having compassion and education at the center of all we do to really increase inclusion and the desire for patients to want to be involved in the clinical trials that we run. And then looking at the organization itself, we have a strong focus on diversity and inclusion all the way throughout our organization, from our leadership all the way down. It's really important that we work having empathy and compassion in what we do, educating and increasing awareness of opportunities, making sure that it encompasses all and is inclusive of all. And it's something that the organization is incredibly passionate about.
You know, Sally, just listening to you, I think you're my first interview that's touched on clinical trials and the importance of inclusion and diversity at that level. I think that's impressive, and I'm really glad that you called that out. Secondly, I love to hear the words empathy and compassion. You would be surprised. You might be the first interview I've had that have mentioned those two words as an organizational kind of mantra. So thank you for that. Maybe just to add on to this discussion, I have a couple of questions around the clinical trials, and because of the diversity inclusion you put into those clinical trials, maybe touch on a little bit, you know, patient care and outcomes because of that, you know, how that all correlates, you know, for Aura.
So patients really are what they are at the center of all we do. I started my career off as a clinician, then became a researcher before joining industry in 2003. And everything that we do is for serving the patient. And without the patients, we cannot conduct clinical trials. Without the patients, we can't bring groundbreaking technologies to market that would benefit them. So how can we serve our patients better so that we can accelerate the clinical trials that we work on? I'm a firm believer that we do that through listening to the patients. What are their hopes? What are their fears? What are their desires? How can we address that, not only in the protocol design, but in the education educational material that we develop for them? How can we break down any barriers? You know, there might be within the patient population a feeling of being a guinea pig if they're in a clinical trial, but there are actually lots of advantages about being in a clinical trial, learning more about their condition, perhaps being seen more regularly. So how can we provide assurance so that they want to be involved in the clinical trials that we are working on? We have a number of patient panels, and I have to say, every time I get on these patient panels, speaking to the patients themselves really allows you to get in touch with that compassion and empathy, because when you're working within something, it's very easy to take things for granted, utilizing specific words or terminology that to you or I might be normal, but to a patient is a bit scary and causes apprehension. So hearing about what they think and what these words mean to them means that we can develop material that is far more compassionate and empathetic. And it also is really important that we provide the right education so that they feel engaged and accountable as well for their involvement in the clinical trials that they participate within.
Amazing. I love it. And I love that you just wrap that empathy and compassion from the organization back into your clinical trials. And I think it is all about the patient. What we do in the ophthalmic space, that's it, you know, healthcare in general, but we're talking ophthalmology and optometry here. So that is amazing. Is there any other last words that you'd like to add today? I think that was almost a perfect soundbite for me. It was so great. And you are, again, probably my first interview that's really honed in on empathy and compassion, especially around the patient. That's awesome.
Well, I think we all need to remember that we ourselves are patients, every single one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Walk a mile in someone's shoes, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to hop into the last questions for today. What is your favorite word in eye care?
Well, this is easy, really. It's vision. You know, vision, sight. I've dedicated my entire career to ophthalmology. You know, I started my career off as learning to be an optometrist and have worked in ophthalmology ever since. And the reason why I went into optometry and then into the industry of ophthalmology is because I'm passionate about vision. I had eye problems as a child. That developed my desire to learn more, to understand more. And, you know, the treatment that I have received as a patient has had such positive impacts to me. And if I'm able to make advances and contribute to making a difference in the world of ophthalmology, then that really satisfies an inner desire that I have.
Awesome. Awesome. What is your least favorite word?
Again, that's an easy question. Blindness. Can you imagine life without sight?
No.
It's one of those, it's one of our senses that perhaps we all take for granted the most. You know, we drive, we look down the stairs when we're walking down the stairs, we look at our children, we watch the television, we read books, we use our computers, we use our sight all the time. And it's not until we see that there is something wrong that we appreciate it. And any sight implications has a huge negative impact upon the patient. It can be incredibly scary. And if I had to consider life without sight, I would find that an incredibly difficult concept to accept, as do many of our patients.
I agree. And I think it's, you know, our eyesight is the most discounted thing there is. It's remarkable how you take it for granted until.
Exactly.
Yeah. So moving on, what professional role in our space would you consider other than your own?
So you probably have gathered that I want to make a difference. So any role in which I feel that I can make a difference is something that would motivate and interest me. I'm very passionate that we can work together and go further than we can alone. And I see these amazing minds that do so much in ophthalmology, and together I believe that we can make a difference. So this question sort of provokes thought, and one of the professions that I would love to have perhaps embarked upon is perhaps a pediatric ophthalmologist, being able to work with children from a really early age, those with sight-threatening conditions, and help make a difference to their quality of life early on to impact positively for the rest of their lives.
Oh, that's lovely. That's wonderful. What profession would you not want to undertake?
In the field of ophthalmology, I think that perhaps the profession that I would find the hardest is working in oncology. And I think that they do such amazing work and make so many strides to support preservation of vision, but for many that's not possible. And I imagine that's very hard as a healthcare profession in the instances when you are faced with no options or very limited options to make a positive difference.
Yeah, agreed. If you could do one thing to kind of contribute or advance diversity and leadership within our community, what would it be?
To do everything that I want to do faster.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now I have a surprise question for you.
Okay.
If you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh gosh. Well, I could think of many. If I had one superpower, it would to give me more time. Is that a superpower? I'm not even sure that that's a superpower.
Would it be immortality?
No, maybe given that I've said that I'd like more time, the ability to time travel.
Awesome.
In fact, yes, definitely. I'd love to time travel. There are so many people that I would love to be able to talk to that aren't on this world right now. So yes, to be able to time travel, that's it.
Okay, I'm going with you, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's what I would do too. Oh, that's so great. Sally, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, Aura, for all of your support of OWL. We are a nonprofit and it really makes a difference. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do. And thank you for inviting me today.
Wonderful. Have a good day. Good evening.
You too.